Before he became Genghis Khan, he was just a starving boy abandoned on the steppe. His family had no army, no protection, and almost no chance of surviving winter. When his father died, the tribe rode away and left them behind like they were nothing. So Temujin searched riverbanks for food, learning that survival was never guaranteed. But hunger did not break him. It sharpened something dangerous inside him. On the Mongolian steppe, every campfire carried fear, and every stranger could become an enemy. Rival riders could appear from the dust at any moment, and mercy was never promised. Temujin learned his first brutal lesson. Blood alone does not protect you. So he walked alone, watched everything, and turned every small skill into a weapon. Hunting, hiding, running, surviving. Every day was training for the empire he did not yet know he would build. Then came the moment that could have ended Temujin's story before it ever began. Captured and humiliated, he sat beside enemy fires with no power and no escape. But instead of panicking, he watched them closely, studying every weakness around him. Then one guard made a choice that changed history. He quietly loosened the rope. Temujin slipped into the night, moving through the grass like his life depended on silence. By sunrise, he was still alive, and he would never forget who helped him survive. Later, young warriors began gathering around his fire from different clans and broken families. Temujin shared food, trust, and protection with men who were not born into his bloodline. To the old nobles, this was dangerous. It threatened everything their power stood on. Because Mongolia was not one nation yet, it was a battlefield of rival tribes. Across the steppe, raids, revenge, and betrayal kept every tribe trapped in endless conflict. Temujin began to understand the pattern. Whoever united the tribes could control the steppe. At first, he rose with Jamuka, his sworn brother and one of his strongest allies. Together, they rode like the future belonged to both of them. But ambition has a way of turning brothers into rivals. Jamuka stood with the old world, noble blood, inherited power, and tribal hierarchy. Temujin offered something different. Follow me, prove yourself, and your birth will not decide your future. Soon, the steppe was no longer just divided by tribes. It was divided by two ideas. Around Temujin, ordinary men began raising banners for a new kind of leader. And on the steppe, loyalty like that was more valuable than gold. Then the struggle for Mongolia's future turned into open war. Temujin learned to win with speed, discipline, and fear moving together. His riders could strike, vanish, and return before enemies understood what happened. He turned the open steppe itself into a weapon. But his greatest advantage was not just force, it was organization. He began arranging warriors into units instead of leaving them divided by tribe. Former enemies now stood in the same line, under the same command. Orders moved fast, punishments were clear, and rewards were visible. A common fighter could rise if he proved loyal and useful, and that terrified the nobles who depended on birthright to stay powerful. The rivalry with Jamuka finally became impossible to avoid. Jamuka had prestige, noble support, and the weight of tradition behind him. Temujin had something different. Men who believed their future depended on him. The war between them was not clean and it was not quick. But every defeat taught Temujin how to survive without disappearing. He was not just fighting battles, he was solving a political puzzle. Every rival clan needed a reason to join him instead of fear him. So he offered protection, structure, and a place inside the new order. Instead of destroying every defeated enemy, he often absorbed them. And little by little, scattered tribes became one force. Then came the council that would change the future of the steppe. In 1206, Temujin was recognized by the Mongol leaders as Genghis Khan. For the first time, scattered tribes began answering to one command. The abandoned boy from the steppe had become the leader of a united Mongol nation. But unity was only the beginning of what came next. Genghis Khan had created a force built for movement, speed, and survival. Soon his riders faced a new world, cities, walls, and settled empires. To defeat them, the Mongols had to learn patience, pressure, and siege warfare. They became dangerous because they learned from the people they conquered. Every campaign added new skills, new routes, and new ways to expand. communication became one of the empire's most important weapons. A message could move across impossible distances by changing horses again and again. Under Mongol control, trade routes could become safer if people obeyed the system. Genghis Khan used talent wherever he found it, even outside his own people. Laws, orders, and records helped turn conquest into administration. Inside the camp, discipline was strict. Chaos was for the enemy, not for his own army. This was not just a moving army, it was becoming a moving state. Every rider trained for speed, endurance, balance, and coordination. On the steppe, children grew up watching survival and warfare become daily life. Then, Genghis Khan turned his attention beyond Mongolia, toward richer lands. Trade, diplomacy, insult, and revenge began pulling the Mongols toward larger empires. When Mongol messengers entered foreign courts, suspicion followed them everywhere. And when serious news reached Genghis Khan, his silence was more dangerous than anger. He prepared campaigns carefully, with horses, supplies, scouts, and patience. His armies did not always come from one direction. They split, moved, and surrounded. Cities that trusted distance suddenly saw dust rising outside their walls. Scouts and signals made the Mongols feel like they were everywhere at once. The sieges were devastating, and entire regions were changed forever. The human cost was enormous, and history still struggles with that legacy. But behind the fear was a system, organized, disciplined, and constantly moving. Victory kept followers loyal because rewards were shared in predictable ways. A skilled enemy could be spared if his ability was useful. Engineers, scribes, scouts, traders, and soldiers all became part of the machine. The Mongols adapted across snow, desert, mountains, and grasslands. Their enemies often understood the plan only after it was already too late. Inside the command tent, messages, routes, and decisions moved through the night. Scouts, supplies, fear, diplomacy, and speed all worked together. The empire did not look possible until it was already happening. The starving boy had not disappeared. He had become the logic behind the empire. His mother's lessons taught him that survival required more than strength. It required alliances built beyond bloodline and tradition. It required turning strangers into a team before enemies could divide them again. And it required making betrayal too costly to become normal. Genghis Khan understood a simple rule: people repeat what gets rewarded. So he rewarded loyalty, courage, discipline, and results. Then he made defeated people part of the next victory. By the end of his life, his empire stretched across a huge part of the known world. After him, his descendants continued expanding through soldiers, roads, and trade. That is the contradiction of Genghis Khan: destruction and connection in the same story. He was not a simple hero, and he was not just a simple villain. He was a survivor who turned the rules of his world into a weapon. The journey began with one abandoned boy and ended with a system millions could not ignore. That is how Temujin became Genghis Khan, through loyalty, fear, speed, and order. And from the emptiest place in his life, he built an empire that changed the world.